I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Last week, I lost my job. I got fired. And I was a little bit like a deer in the headlights. My boss told me, I had just gotten hired actually by this dear friend of mine. I hadn't heard from her in years. And she remembered my writing skills from back in the day and pretty much hired me on the spot after someone had vacated that position. And I really loved this job. I was slowly transitioning from substitute teaching to working as a full-time content developer for this company. And after 90 days, my boss talked to me. This is all via Zoom, and she's in another state and I'm here. And all the writing was online, and it was for different companies that this marketing company represented. But first, she asked me what were my thoughts. And I remember saying, how I was loving the work, how I was still struggling with learning search engine optimization and other technical skills that I had not really learned that well. And after I said all those things, she said, in short, that while she loved my writing, she felt that this position was really not a match because my learning curve was not meeting the need of the company. I mean, really I think what they really wanted was someone who was not only a writer, but also very technically savvy, which I currently am not, and I will just need to take more online training. But it came as a complete blow. And, I fought back the tears because, of course, we're friends. And I could see that it was hard for her to tell me goodbye, but it's still being fired. Saying letting you go is still being fired. But I wish I could have known what might I have done to have avoided being let go. Is there something I should have seen in terms of work review or meetings that we had? I don't know, sisters. What do you think?
I think you got to unmute. I think that
I'll start.
There you go.
I had unmuted and then it muted itself again. I full disclosure, I've never been fired. But I have been threatened with firing, but I've never been fired. And one thing but as a boss, when I was a boss, I actually had to fire someone. And that was hard, even though the person needed to be fired because of all kind of improprieties that he had been doing. And I kind of felt bad, and he knew that he was going to get fired, and he wanted me to do it over the phone. And I said, no, I needed him to come in. And so he knew it. But one thing that I would say is that really it wasn't quite fair and actually kind of cowardly for your boss to do it that way. Because if you were not meeting expectations, that should have been something that should have been reviewed at the 30-day mark, again at the 60-day mark. And then at that point, you can see these are the things I need to improve. Where you may know that you are not meeting technical aspects that they needed, they should have also been more transparent in telling you that. And that's one of the things. If someone is like, oh, you're doing fine, and and they're just kind of waiting out that 90 days, because the 90 days, a lot of times people, they go in and they have that 90-day probation. Almost all of us have at some point or another. But at some point in that 90 days, they should have been taking notes, giving you evaluations, letting you know, you still need to do this. Perhaps you can do that, giving you the chance so that you can improve. And maybe you will come to decide, you know what, this job just isn't for me. But to let you go on for the full 90 days and then telling you, well, we're not going to keep you, is their way of saying, okay, this person isn't doing what we want. So we're going to spend the rest of that time looking for someone else. And when we have that new person in place, then we're just going to fire them. And I'm betting you that there's somebody else who they have already hired for that job. And I think that that was a really cowardly way of doing it. If your job wants to give you a chance to make it, they need to let you know where you are falling short as well as what you are doing right. And then that gives you the chance to kind of see, okay, maybe I need to take more online courses on, or look more at SEO, search engine optimization headlines, so that I know how to move our stories up and, in the internet searches, which is what an SEO headline does.
Right.
But I just think that that's just wrong. And I think we have to look at those red flags when someone isn't meeting eye contact. They're not really telling you anything. They're being kind of cold, or non-committal in, well, how am I doing? And you have to be proactive. You have to ask, how am I doing?
Yeah, I think also I've been in both positions. I've both had to let someone go, and I've been let go. And like Cheryl said, there are ways to do things that are more respectful for the person. Now, on the side of the employer, you always want people to do their best. And if they're not doing their best, it's your job to train them. And if you hire them, it was your job to make sure they had the qualifications before they started working. So, I mean, I've made the error of hiring a friend who wasn't qualified and then not firing them and letting them finally just quit, which was not good. I learned from that experience. Don't hire people if they don't meet what you need, because you'll be frustrated while they're working. You'll be angry, but then you don't want to let them go because they're your friend, but then they're not helping you. So don't hire your friends just because they're friends. And then the second thing, of course, is if they're not performing well and you know that they don't have the capacity to learn what you need them to learn in order to have the skills that you need them to have, then be upfront and make the decision to let them go before they make mistakes. They're embarrassed, and then they realize, I can't do this job. And then they just stop coming in and they call you over the phone and say, I quit, which is what ended up happening, which was not pleasant. But I realized from that I should have been proactive and either said, well, this is what we need, and I realize you need more training, and this isn't the job for you, but I appreciate the work you've done so far. Just be upfront and let it go when you know it's not going to get any better. And
yeah, I think that was one of the things that she said, was that my learning curve was actually taking too long. I think she expected me to be able to jump in there. Well, I was already placed in an impossible situation because it was a writing job. And I was immediately drawn to it because that's what I love doing. But the truth is, they had lost a writer, and I was fulfilling this position. This person had gotten them several months behind in work with several different clients. And I think if I were Superwoman, I'd have gotten that all caught up in a matter of 3 months. But of course I couldn't, because I'm still learning. And the thing is, I had had a job previously with an online magazine about 10 years ago where I had been learning SEO. And so the things were starting to come back to me, not real speedily. And I think it was frustration on her part to have to go back behind me and do some of the things that I should have been doing. But I was just floating along thinking I'm doing well. I mean, I'm loving the job because, number one, I did not have to get up as early. My hours were my own. I was working from home. My schedule was greatly lax. Maybe I should have worked the way I do when I had to get up and go and teach a class and then come home and do my regular other responsibilities. But I did not see this coming. I was already like planning on how I was going to finesse my way completely out of teaching and do this full time, because it was very hard to teach a class and then come home and write for 4 to 6 hours. So I was starting to let the other job slowly go, because it was just substitute teaching. So I could call, those jobs my own. But I was so disappointed when I got let go.
Well, that's the thing, is that part of someone hiring and being responsible for hiring, you don't hire for what you're going to be able to teach the person to do. You hire the person who already knows how to do what you need done, especially in a situation like you were in, where the work was so backed up, you needed somebody to be able to hit the ground running. So It wasn't really fair for them to bring you into a mess. And that I've been in that situation as well. In another situation where I'm trying to remember what finally happened at the end. I think I left there to go somewhere else, but I had been put I'd been brought in after somebody else made a mess, and then I'm expected to fix it. And it was kind of impossible because the company itself was disorganized. And so you end up being the scapegoat for someone else's disorganization. So I think I ended up leaving there. Well, you mentioned red flags before getting fired. It was kind of like you're constantly being called into the office and all these things are being said. Well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. And I saw myself being set up as a scapegoat. So I left before they could decide, okay, we're going to blame you for this mess we already had before you got here. So that's one thing you can, when you look at red flags, you can look at what is the state that the company is in. First of all, do they have a high turnover? Because there was a high turnover at the place where I was working, and the position that I had, they had several people that had it, and each person came in and did it their way, which made it very dysfunctional because you're trying to fix somebody with several different systems. And then there was always kind of a chaotic thing of, always a crisis. So, you had which that comes from the top down. So with the leadership is like a crisis kind of person, not really organized and planning, and the way they handle not fixing what's wrong with them is to blame everybody else around them. That's what I saw. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be the next scapegoat that you blame for the mess that you made. And so I left. But another red flag is a place where there's high turnover and a lot of blaming, and people at the top not taking responsibility for their own lack of organization. And, we've all had those situations.
Absolutely. Also, I would like to say, and I was trying to make sure that I remembered everything that I was going to say about red flags, because when someone hires you for a job, you assume that they are invested in your well-being and you doing a good job. And if that means that they're going to spend a little bit more time training you and giving you, the basic things that you need, rather than like people say, oh, I'm just going to throw you in on the deep end, and then, you either sink or swim. Well, that means that they're really not invested in you doing well in that job. Some people thrive in that. For somebody like me, I would just drown. So, so that's the thing is, if you're going to hire me, let me know what you need me to do. And then if I improve and you want to give me more responsibility, and that's what happened to my previous job. I went in as a copy editor. I was supposed to go in just a few hours a week, work from home, and then they needed a little bit more. And so, and they increased my hours. Eventually I went to full time. And then eventually I was running the operation, and then, they started losing money. So they decided, oh, we don't want to burn you out. So then they want to cut back my hours and then do all this other stuff. But the problem was the chaos at the top, where the person at the top did not know what he wanted. All he knew is that once things started working, he wasn't happy with it and wanted to keep fiddling. So you're constantly seeing this turnover in young reporters because he's asking them to do more than they could do. And this is during the pandemic. So people
Right.
aren't being able to go out. So eventually, I got an offer that I could refuse and I left. Um, but that was the thing is, and it was because he was too cowardly to fire me because I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just he wanted to ease me out. What he didn't understand is that I did not need that job. And that was, and I decided to retire, which lasted all of 3 months, and then I got another job. So so this is the thing, but the red flags kind of start, and there were other people who were on the verge of being fired before they left, but it started with the constant criticism, where they don't want to give you any help, but they keep asking more from you.
Yeah.
And they want you to do more with less for less.
Yeah.
And then, and that's a red flag. And that's when, and you start feeling unhappy. I'm really sorry that you felt blindsided, Barbara, because it's really hard when you think you're doing a good job and nobody's told you anything. And you would assume that grownups will tell you, well, you're not doing that great a job. This is what you need to improve so that you can. If no one says anything, you assume everything's fine. So you just keep swimming. So it's not really fair. And if you had known that this is what they wanted and that was more important for you to like really push yourself, and they had told you, well, we really need you to learn this faster. You need to be a little bit more proactive. You probably would have started with your regular hours, getting up, getting started first thing in the morning, working as hard as you could, doing the online courses. And then, you would probably still have the job you wanted and that you loved, and they would have a good writer that they said they wanted. The thing is that when people don't do that, they are hurting you, yes, but they're hurting themselves too. So this red flag means that this gives you a chance to improve what you need to improve and then go on to the next job.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is the kind of support I got from my other friends when I shared, when in fact one of my friends in one of my Bible studies actually said, you're going to go back and thank her because when you get the next position, you are going to look back and say, thank you for letting me go here because now I got this and I wouldn't have gotten it if I was still there. But
Absolutely.
another thing I would like to say is that I don't think I ever had a real clear job description. So,
That's another red flag.
I recently asked her to actually give me a job description so that I can have on paper exactly what I was supposed to be doing, what I was supposed to be learning over this certain period of time.
Yeah. I mean, that itself is another red flag because sometimes an employer will set up a position and they're really not clear yet quite what they need. So they don't have a description. And therefore, you don't have a guideline as to whether or not you're really doing the job. They don't really have a guideline as to whether you're doing the job. You're not fixing what was broken when you came there. And so therefore they decide, well, it's because you're not doing your job. And you're like, but what was the job? So if they can't give you a clear job description, that's almost like setting you up for failure. If I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and you can't tell me what I'm supposed to do, so we can be clear on what things I have the skills in, what things I need to learn, then I end up getting blindsided when you decide, well, this isn't quite working. Well, is it because I didn't do my job, or is it because you didn't properly
yours?
What the job was? Yes. So, it's a responsibility of the employer, first of all, to make it clear what the job requires and what skills are required to do the job. And then when they decide to hire you, to give you the support you need for whatever they feel like might be missing in terms of skills. But it really needs to be clear in the beginning so that you can be prepared and not just suddenly out of the blue, oh, well, this isn't working. And them not, like Cheryl was saying, not making eye contact. And, they know they're not happy. They know they plan to let you go, and they might even be interviewing other people for your for the job right under your nose. But but that, and I've seen that happen too. But the thing is, you deserve to be given some type of feedback that is honest, and you deserve to be told in advance if there is a problem so that you can correct it, as opposed to just, oh, well, you don't fit this job. That's kind of mean.
So
let's
yeah. So
maybe
let's
you
talk
shouldn't
about,
hire your friends too. I mean, this is someone I have known for years. I hadn't heard from her out of the blue. She was looking for a writer, and
so if she liked your writing,
I'm looking to write,
Yeah, if she liked your writing and that was what you came to do, if there was something else that was needed, she should have been more transparent about that. Because a lot of things do involve certain technical skills, but if that was the case, she should have let you know.
She should have let you know. But this is the thing, and I would disagree with you one thing about hiring your friends, because the last 2 jobs that I got, including the current one that I had, was because someone who knew me, one person who knew me from the Globe recommended me for the next job that I got after I left the Globe. And then someone else recommended me for the current job. And these are all, so that's what we call networking. So this didn't work. But let's talk about some of the red flags that we can look for, and the way that we can stop those red flags before they start, waving. One, I would say, is to be proactive when you get a new job, is to ask for evaluation. Now we got an evaluation, and I'm teaching now, and we had to ask for student evaluations. Now nobody sees the evaluations but the teachers, and that's like the midterm. And I'm like, oh no, this is my first time teaching, and I'm going to get these terrible evaluations. But really, what my chair told me is look for these to be course corrections if you need it. So, and they were, for the most part, really, really positive. So I was, heartened by that. But that's the thing, is that you can go and you can ask your boss after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, say, I'm really liking this job. Is there something else I should be doing to make this better for both of us? Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to, at this point in our lives, we have to be more proactive about saying, I'm really liking what I'm doing. Is there something that you think I can do to make this better? Is there something that I'm missing? What can I be working on? And that's going to help them. That's also going to give them a chance. And then they can make notations, and you can make notations, so that, and then, you come back a couple of weeks later, says, okay, I've been working on this. What can I do now? Is this, in your eyes, is this better? Or if it's not, what do you recommend that I do? And sometimes it may be just something that's beyond what you're able to do. And that's okay. But then you can start saying, okay, this job may be not the right fit for me. Let me start looking for something else.
Right.
But then you're not like suddenly stuck where you're saying, well, wait a minute, I thought I was really doing a good job, and telling me that you like my writing does not help me if you're not really willing to pay me for it, because of something else that I can't do. So these are the things that we need to do when we're in a job, is, am I doing okay? What can I do? What support? This is the support that I need. Where do you think I'm lacking? And be willing to take the criticism, because, criticism has to be constructive, and then you have to really work on it. You can't get defensive and say, well, nobody else had to do this. Well, if this is the job you want, then you go with it. And that's what's so hard. And if you don't want to go with it, you know what? You got a job. Now's the time for you to start looking, because that's the best time to get a job, when you already have one.
Right. Yeah. That's true. And also, like you say about hiring your friends, it can work if you're hiring your friends because your friends has skills that you need, and you prefer to work with someone you already like. That makes a lot of sense. But you don't hire your friends just because your friend needs a job. And that your friend doesn't have the skills that you need, but you just want to help them out. That doesn't work. So it's good to hire friends. I mean, the last couple of people that I brought on board at our, for our radio network, it was, a friend of one of the other hosts. So that was a good thing, because you kind of want people who already are ready to do what you need done. And it helps if they're liked, because you want a team atmosphere. You want people in the workplace to like each other. That's always, it makes it fun to come to work, or to work together, whatever the case may be. So hiring friends can work, but also what's tricky is if there is a situation at the job, there's a conflict between the people and everybody's friends. Well, somebody has to have the wisdom to address the issue before it becomes unsolvable, and then somebody ends up quitting or being fired because there's some anger or hurt feelings, or feelings that someone didn't carry their weight, or whatever the case may be. So it's all about honesty.
Mhm.
Yes.
The people who hire being honest and being supportive and being willing to help if someone needs training, them being responsible enough to let you know what the job involves. And then if you do have to part, them at least giving you some notice. Well, we're going to have to get another person for this position, but we will give you, a week or a couple of weeks or whatever, because you've already invested in your future based on having this paycheck that you're expecting to have.
Yeah.
You don't just cut somebody, oh, well, it ain't working by, because that's disruptive too.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we've got to go, but we do want to give you all an opportunity to see all of our shows. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms, and follow us on Facebook, 3 Black Moms, and feel free to leave your comments, and we'll certainly be glad to respond. I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black Moms. Bye. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.